Hey there guys, I'm Renee. I am the owner and artist behind Chicly Reclaimed Decor, and welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how I upcycled this old window into a shabby chic farmhouse inspired piece of home decor. We're going to be going over how to create a Barnwood style finish, as well as how to use decoupage papers and IOD paint inlays to repurpose and redesign this old window. So if that is something you'd be interested in learning, guys, stick around, because that's what I'm going to be going over today. So after thoroughly cleaning this piece with Paint Couture's TSP base solution, I am going to be using Paint Couture's Premium Plus 2-in-1 bonding and blocking primer to prepare these two glass panels on the left and right to be painted. We're actually going to be decoupaging them. Don't forget to stir your product thoroughly before you begin. When you are decoupaging, you want to lay down a nice white base so the colors in your decoupage can show through. And we are going to be using these two beautiful decoupage papers by AB Studios. I will put the names of these decoupage papers as well as a full product list down in the description below, as well as my affiliate link, just in case I inspire you to try out any of these amazing Paint Couture products that I'm highlighting here today. And I am actually just going to be using whatever is left over on my paintbrush after painting the two panels white to add a layer of white paint to my wood frame. And because I'm going for a weathered, distressed look, I'm not worried about getting full coverage with each successive layer of different colored paint that I'm adding. Next up, I'm going to be brushing on a layer of sea glass. The nice thing about this is that you're going to be coming back later and distressing it, so you're going to be revealing all these different colors. And I also like that if you add your paint on sloppy or if you get brush strokes, it really adds to that shabby chic farmhouse feel. So this is a really easy and fun paint look to achieve. Next up, I'll be following that same process to add angel eyes. Again, this is part of Paint Couture's acrylic mineral style of paint. And you definitely don't need to add as many layers as I am, but I really want there to be peaks of different colors that are going to match the decoupage paper and the paint inlays that I will be adding later on. This color right here that I'm adding is actually a custom mix color of Candlelight and Caribbean Coral, and this is what we are looking at so far after I've added all those layers of paint. And next up, we are going to be distressing this piece with, I'm going to be using an 80 grit sandpaper to distress by hand. I feel like I have a little bit more control over how much or how little paint I take off. And my favorite thing about this technique is, as you can see on the right hand side, the grain in the wood is naturally raised. So when I sand back, it brings out that natural wood grain look. I absolutely love that about this technique. And these are the results after I was all finished sanding. You can definitely see all the beautiful layers of color that we have added. And now to finish off this weathered paint design, we are going to be glazing over top of this wood. We're going to be using both Amber Honey and Verde Green. These glazes by Paint Couture double as a wood stain, and that is what we are going to be using them for here. You are going to want a chip brush or a brush to apply them, and I'm going to be using a old towel, if you had paper towels, to wipe off any excess glaze. That would work fine too. And I always wear gloves because this stuff can stain pretty well, hence the name. And I am using both of these colors because I'm going for kind of a duotone aged paint look. But you don't have to use two colors. You can get away with just doing one. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to wipe back any excess glaze that is on top. And as you can see, it not only stains the exposed wood grain, but it also stains and gives age to the paint layers that we have added. And then I just continued on with that process to glaze or stain the rest of this frame. This is what it looked like before we added the glaze. And here's what we were looking at after. Are you liking this content? And are you interested in DIY home decor and other home furnishings? Then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload new tutorials. Now that the wood frame is done, we're ready to start preparing our decoupage rice paper to be used. I am going to be using a wet paintbrush to wet down the edge of this rice paper so I can easily tear it to remove this bottom half here. To compensate for the size of the glass panels, I'm going to be using 2 of these decoupage papers of the same design. And by doing this, I create a nice feathered edge, so the edges on these 2 papers will blend nicely together. And then I just followed that same process for the other set of decoupage papers that I'll be using. Next up, as you can see, these decoupage papers are just a little too wide for these glass panels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my finger along the edge, and it's going to create a crease, and that's going to make it easy for me to take a wet paintbrush and glide it along the edge of the decoupage paper, wetting it down, again making it very easy for me to tear. At this stage, I'm not worried if the decoupage paper tears a little bit more than it should, because eventually I want this decoupage paper to look like it is old wallpaper. Like it's wallpaper in an old house that has cracks, and it even has like kind of darker grunge around the edges, just kind of build up as something naturally would, like wallpaper over the years. My inspiration for this part of the design actually came from Bannock. It is a ghost town here in Montana where I live. And if you look at the wallpaper in some of the old houses, it kind of reminds me of this technique and how it turns out in the end. And here I'm measuring to find the middle on this glass panel. So these decoupage papers match up nicely in the middle on both the right and the left on this design. To apply these decoupage papers, I'm going to be using Couture's Extreme Guard Satin Top Coat. You can use any top coat that they have. You can also use their decoupage medium. Just be sure to stir your top coat thoroughly before you apply it. And I am going to be using Capital Crafts 2-inch brush to apply this medium. I'm also just going to be reusing the little sleeve that these decoupage papers came in. This is going to help me to push out any air bubbles and to smooth out my decoupage paper as I go along. I mean, this video is about repurposing and reusing, right? So I'm going to lay down a layer of this top coat, and then lining the paper up with the middle that I have marked. I'm going to start at one end, and then working from one side to the other. I'm going to use that little piece of plastic to lay down this decoupage paper and to smooth out any wrinkles and push out any air bubbles. And then I'm going to finish it off by brushing the top coat over top. And I'm just going to continue on with that process to adhere the rest of this decoupage paper. Up next, we are going to be using these beautiful paint inlays. These are by Iron Orchid Designs, and I'm going to use them to decorate that middle window panel. And I'm just going to go about cutting these inlays to fit, which is super easy because they have these grid-like lines that run throughout, so you can make sure that you cut it evenly and with straight lines. And my inspiration behind decorating these 3 panels 3 different ways actually came from a patchwork quilt. These designs may be different, but all 3 of them have pink, so it makes it so the design flows and it is cohesive. To To apply these designs, you're going to need a mister bottle. I like to use a sponge to press down the inlay, and I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard Top Coat to embed these paint inlays into. So first things first, you're going to want to mist the paint side of your inlay, and then you're going to want to add a nice thick layer of your top coat onto the glass. I'm going to lay down my wet inlay paint side down onto my surface, and then when I have it where I want it, I'm going to spritz it with my water bottle, and I'm going to use my sponge to gently but firmly press this inlay into place. After a couple hours, your inlay should be nice and dry, and it is ready to be removed. So you are going to spritz this with your misting bottle, and then very gently you're going to start lifting it up. I find it helpful to start at one corner and work my way to the other. And then you just pull the inlay from one side to the next. And if you feel like your inlay is at all resisting you, just spray it again with some more water and then go about pulling. Next up, to add some age to the decoupage paper that we're trying to make look like old wallpaper, we are going to be using Paint Couture's two-part Crackle. So first off, you're going to start with part 1, which is their size medium. And it's called size because the thicker you lay this medium on, the thicker and more pronounced your cracks will be. And the thinner you put it on, the more you will get more like fine line crackle. So as you can see here, I'm putting it on mainly the bottom and the corners here, and I'm going to continue doing that in all 4 corners on this piece. After about an hour or so, your step 1 should become tacky to the touch, and that is when you know you are ready to start adding your step 2. And that is what I'm doing here. I'm adding the Crackle Step 2 directly over the Crackle Step 1 that we put on earlier. And within a few minutes, you can start seeing some of the crackle start to develop, as you see here. So next up, again, we're going to be using Paint Couture's Amber Honey Glaze. We are going to be using this to accent and bring out the cracks here. This is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm just taking a cheap chip brush, and I am brushing this glaze over top of the areas where we have added the crackle. And then I'm going to take a rag, you could use a paper towel, and I'm going to wipe off any excess glaze that is remaining on top here. And as you can see, the glaze got into those cracks and really accented them. And it also helped me to attain that aged, kind of grungy look that I was going for with this faux aged wallpaper look. I know I've mentioned it many times, but I love that this glaze is water-based. So if I put too much on and I'm not liking the look, I can just spray it with water, and that makes it that much easier for me to remove this glaze to get just the amount and the look that I want. Let's just say glaze is a maze. I love this stuff. If you haven't tried it, guys, I highly recommend it. And then lastly, I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard Top Coat to not only seal these paint inlays, but to also seal the decoupage and the weathered wood finish. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Renee. I am the owner and artist behind Chicly Reclaimed Decor, and you can follow me for more DIY home decor and furniture flips, as well as painting tips. And I hope I've inspired you to pick up a paintbrush and do a little creating of your very own.